All right. Waiting on one person here. One person we're going to do a 12-person underdog best ball draft where it's just going to be the 2023 season. So, this is all 17 weeks, I believe. 17 weeks, not all 18, but it looks like we are filled up and waiting on the draft slot. So I'm going to go ahead and I can see that we're in the 8th spot. So this is what the draft board looks like right now. If you're watching this live on YouTube, if you're listening to this, we are in the 8th spot. This is a standard 12 team, $5 entry, season long best ball draft on Underdog Fantasy. And as I'm looking through here, I can see there is only one badge, D Wood 5000. So D Wood 5000 has done at least 500 drafts or won a little bit of money, something like that. I think that's how the badges work. But yeah, we are in the 8th spot, which many people would say is probably the worst spot you could be in, but I don't think so. Especially these sorts of 12 team drafts. This is a lot more like season long, where you're not as worried about stacking in the tournament weeks, advancing and then advancing again. So the draft is underway. The first person to pick is Abdullah567. Abdullah567 takes the 101, Justin Jefferson. No surprise. Jamar Chase off the board. Holstein 6771. Will we get a chalky ADP start? CMC, or is somebody going to get a little crazy? No, CMC goes. So things are going according to plan, but I was in one of these the other day, and the turn took Patrick Mahomes, followed by Amari Cooper at the 12 and 13. So these ones can get a little squirrely. So if you're doing underdog, or if you're doing best ball, you're thinking about doing best ball, or you're just getting ready for your redraft leagues, this is just $5, but it gives a little bit of stakes, as far as if you're trying to do mock drafts against the computer or with some buddies. Maybe you don't want your buddies to know your strategy going in. And you'd rather deal with, 11 other live people who have committed $5 to draft, because we love to draft. And so this gives you a pretty good idea, these 12 team best ball drafts. Now, I know some friends, some bandit bros of mine are in the fine state of Washington, who Washington does not like to let you gamble online. um, do these sorts of best ball drafts. So I feel for them. So I might actually have them on here in a future episode pretty quickly. Not in the distant future, but coming up here in the next week or so, as we are really getting into our home redraft league draft season. So I'm about to be on the clock. There are, it's pretty chalky thus far. It's Jettas, it's Chase, Cup, Hill, CMC, Kelsey. Bijan goes at 107. So now I have the pick at 108. I have some choices here. I can go Eckler, I can go Diggs, I can go AJ Brown, I can go CeeDee Lamb. I'm going to go with, this is a half PPR format. So I'm going to go with AJ Brown, just because of that week winning upside. And on the course of the season, I think he will, he's got the huge upside that could propel him to the overall wide receiver one into that Jettas or Chase tier. Part of the reason for that is I think the Eagles have a bit of a harder schedule this year, and they'll be throwing more versus only playing 3 quarters, just dominating their opponents and running all over them and then benching their starters. I think they will have to throw it a bit more, and I think AJ Brown is, as the kids say, him. He is him. All caps, HIM, him. He wants the ball. You can't guard him. He's always open. That's his nickname. So yeah, I'm happy with AJ Brown in the first round at the 108. I also thought about maybe Eckler, who goes right at the 109, and Stephon Diggs of my Buffalo Bills. He goes at the 110. But half PPR, I like the big upside of AJ Brown on a weekly basis versus Diggs and Eckler, where I think they would have been the choices in PPR format, or another guy who I'm hoping to get in the second round, which would be Amon-Ra St. Brown, who goes, of course, to D Wood, to the badge. D Wood 5,000. What the hell, buddy? I was hoping that maybe I would get a bit of a discount. He'd slip back to me, given that this is a season long format and only half PPR, and he's a little banged up at the moment. But no such luck. And Jalen Waddle also goes. This is a real bummer. A lot of my guys are going. This is a sharper room than I was expecting, but that's okay. I mean, home leagues these days, I think they get a bad rap. I think a lot of people are in tune and they know what to do. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take a running back, Tony Pollard, with my second pick, because in the underdog format, you have to start 3 wide receivers, start 2 running backs. And I do want to get an RB1 locked and loaded. And I think Tony Pollard this year, he's ready to go. And I've been doing a bit of research because my priors were very challenged earlier this week or last week when I think his name is Newey Scruggs. Is that right? Yeah, Newey Scruggs, an Emmy-winning journalist down there in the Dallas area who covers the Cowboys or does sports for local TV, I believe. He was saying that basically he spoke with Mike McCarthy, and the reason I was so high on Tony Pollard and the Dallas Cowboys run game with my initial ranks in this whole offseason is when the Cowboys moved on from Kellen Moore. Basically, it seemed as though they were just going to run the damn ball, because that's what Mike McCarthy said. He said, Kellen, I've been where he wants to be. I've been where he was before, basically saying Kellen is a young whippersnapper and he's an old vet and he knows better. And he was saying that basically he wants to run the damn ball so he can rest his defense because they have a good defense, whereas Kellen Moore wants to light up the scoreboard and put points on the board. Now Kellen Moore is the OC in Los Angeles with Justin Herbert, so pretty high on that offense as well. We'll see if we can get a little bit of the Chargers here coming up in the middle rounds. But yeah, Newey Scruggs, he went on the NBC Sports show, formerly the Good Football Show, now the Roto World Football Show, I believe. And he was saying that Mike McCarthy sat down with him and he said, oh, no, that was misconstrued. That was taken out of context, when it wasn't taken out of context. That's what he said. Sounded like he was a little bit backpedaling a bit, and then maybe Newey was kind of covering for his guy there that he had a 20-minute sit down with. But I don't know. I still think this is going to be a run-first offense, but I'm a little worried that I've been fading CD Lamb and Dak and the passing attack, because they're going to have to put up points even if they have, the best defense in the NFC, or one of the best, along with the Niners and their division rivals, the Eagles. So about to be on the clock again here. I will catch up to see what people have been taking as I've been rambling here. Yeah, let's see. Guys at the top of the board right now: Josh Jacobs, Amari Cooper, Ramondre Stevenson, Lamar Jackson. Oh boy. So yeah, this is a wide receiver heavy room, as it's been all year on Underdog. Basically, Josh Jacobs is the RB9, Amari Cooper is the wide receiver 17. So those 3 starting wide receiver spots, they really, really skew early. But as I mentioned, this is a season-long format, so I'm going to take my MVP favorite and my buddy Jackson. He likes to call me a closeted Ravens fan because I took Lamar Jackson. I think he's going to be the MVP. I think they're going to dial it up and pass a lot with Todd Monken calling the shots there, and with Zay Flowers, and not as excited about Odell Beckham, but, I think J.K. Dobbins, from what I've heard, it's a very jovial hold-in. I believe Pat Kerrane was relaying that information on his podcast, The Legendary Upside. Basically, he's hugging the GM at camp and stuff like that. Seems like he's going to be fine. He's going to be out there. So J.K. Dobbins, a year removed from the ACL. Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely, Todd Monken had great success with his Georgia tight ends down there, so that's nice. And then he's got 3 good wide receivers now, as long as Rashad Bateman can stay healthy. So I really like Lamar's chances at an MVP season, and I like him in this format where I don't have Mark Andrews. I'm not as worried about stacks in a 12-team season-long contest where I'm not worried about that tournament format going forward. But I love Lamar. I am a Bills fan, but yes, I will be rooting for my buddy Lamar Jackson this year. Back on the clock. Got some options here. Ooh, Najee Harris, Brees Hall, Travis Etienne, Joe Mixon. Top available wide receiver is Mike Williams. I could have gotten Justin Fields here if I wanted to wait. I think I should probably take a wide receiver, but I'm going to take Travis Etienne because Sean Siegel over at RotoViz, he's been really talking him up lately, and he says that he has echoes of Jamal Charles. Now, Sean considers Jamal Charles to be maybe the best pure runner of all time, and he is a Chiefs fan, so the way I view Jamal Charles is when I was drafting him in fantasy football, I was always worried he was going to get hurt, but he was explosive. He could, the way Sean remembers it is he would disappear into the line and then get 8 yards, get 7 yards, get 10 yards over and over and over again. And that's basically what he could do. And Sean cites a lot of the advanced metrics as far as his elusive rate, and his explosive rate. I'm misremembering. I shouldn't be just freestyling these things, but that's what I'm doing because I wanted to get the video going. So we got the video going. I'm going to take a deep breath. I'm drinking some coffee. It's 10:50 on a Friday night. Yeah. Miami Hurricanes glass. Shout out to young Caleb down in the Miami area. All right. I will look at the board here in a second to see what the rest of this draft is doing. My league mates here that I will be competing against, and it is best ball. If you don't do these drafts, if you're not familiar with Underdog, you pick your team and then it's done. So I am trying to balance some things out as far as guys who I think will have a very good season. But as the draft goes on, I'm going to try to pick some guys that I think are a little bit more stable, a little bit more floor guys, a little bit have less concern as far as, I have a good feeling that they'll be available for 17 weeks, essentially, and producing. Or possibly they're a little downgraded right now. Maybe they're suspended or hurt or a little shaky going into the season. I like taking those guys too because I'm not betting on injuries again. So, back on the clock. I gotta just focus here. I gotta focus. Oh, top of the queue, Christian Kirk, one of my favorite players this year. Oh, do I risk it? It looks like I take JSN. No, I'm gonna take my guy Christian Kirk, who I've got like 100% rostership of Christian Kirk at this point. I just think the Jacksonville Jaguars are primed to explode this year. Their division is pretty weak. And I think that Trevor Lawrence is ready to ascend into that top 5 QB ranking with Doug Peterson there calling the plays. And I think Calvin Ridley, he could turn into that X receiver again, but still Christian Kirk has a year under his belt with Trevor Lawrence building that chemistry. And I think it's going to mean a lot when they're running 7 personnel a lot of the time, or 11 personnel a lot of the time. So Christian Kirk working out of the slot, the way defenses are playing teams these days, I think he'll be able to get open in the short and intermediate field, rack up those receptions, get some yards after the catch, hopefully get into the end zone. So I really like Christian Kirk, who finished as a top 12 PPR option last year. This is half PPR, but Calvin Ridley, he was a top 5 wide receiver the last full season he played. So that Jacksonville team, I've already got ETN and I've got Christian Kirk now. So I'm making a big bet that they're going to have a good year, but I like this. I like this for a 12-team league. I'm okay taking a stand and getting a running back and a wide receiver on the same team because it's best ball. I mean, even in season long managed league, I wouldn't be too concerned about that. It does sort of limit your weekly upside if the Jaguars have a stinker. But I think ETN and Christian Kirk will be a big part of that offense, and I expect them to be in it most weeks with a defense that is, young and improving, but probably isn't gonna set the world on fire. All right, back on the clock. Top of the queue or top of the draft pool is Marquise Brown, Trevor Lawrence. I could get to stack up all this action. J.K. Dobbins. I got Lamar. I think I need another wide receiver. I'm going to take George Pickens. And George Pickens, right before me, JSN went. JSN and George Pickens are a really nice pairing to get if you're doing these tournament best ball drafts at the 5-6 turn because they do play in week 17. But again, since this is just a 12-team standard league, that's not as big of a concern. You don't have to worry about it like a DFS. I need the best possible lineup in week 17 to take home the $1 million or the huge prize. This is a $5 entry, 12-team league. I think first gets like $35 or something. So I'm just worried about beating the other 11 people. And so far, we'll take a look at their teams. So team one, they have gone wide receiver heavy to start. They have Justin Jefferson, Calvin Ridley, T. Higgins, Breece Hall, and TJ Hockenson. That's pretty good. Let's see if anybody's made any crazy picks thus far. It doesn't look like it. It looks like everybody's pretty much following ADP. I thought maybe a Friday night draft, people would be a little loosey-goosey. That wasn't the case. That's a bit of a bummer. Maybe next time. But right now, it looks like everybody's pretty much sticking to ADP, not really reaching to get their guys. So maybe we'll see that as we get further along in the draft. But right now, everybody's teams are looking pretty good. So whatever. That's all right. My team thus far has filled out basically the starting lineup minus the tight end and the flex. So I like it. Tony Pollard, Travis Etienne, I think both of those guys could get 20-point weeks pretty easily. If Travis Etienne's not getting 20-point weeks, I could see Christian Kirk filling that out for me. So that's a nice little trade-off there. I mean, it does cap the ceiling, but I think the Jaguars will be putting up those points. I don't think they're going to have many, 3-point weeks or anything like that. So AJ Brown, George Pickens, both of those guys are kind of more of the prototypical alpha receivers in quotes. I'm doing quotes. But yeah, they're the big guys who can hit the big plays down the field, get on Sports Under top 10, those types of things. So I like that in best ball, but I'm going to definitely try to mix in more of my PPR scam type of guys, as Patrick Doherty says over at the Roto-World football show. Those guys who compile targets, get a ton of targets, like Deontay Johnson. Did he go? It looked like, yeah, he's gone. James Conner's gone. All the safe bets are starting to go. So you know what? Might as well keep leaning into the riskier bets. Do I want to go with James Cook? No, I don't. I want to go with Kyle Pitts because we're having fun. Kyle Pitts, welcome to the team. So Desmond Ridder earlier tonight, I mentioned I'm recording this on Friday it's about 11 p.m. now Eastern time. I did see that the Falcons had a pretty good first drive. I was watching the ESPN Gamecast, just seeing the stats go across the screen on the little whatever. So not really watching it, but I saw Ridder had a very good first drive. I think he was 6 for 7, 7 for 8 or something like that. They got down to the goal line on the 4-yard line, and then it looked like Lindstrom maybe had a holding penalty at the 4, dropped him back to the 14. So they did have their starting offensive lineman in there, at least their starting guard. A very high-paid, well-paid guard who got a contract extension, I believe, this offseason. So Drake London was in the game. Bijan was in the game. Kyle Pitts was in the game, all involved on this first drive. They were humming. Then they get a little bit back. I'm back on the clock. Back on the clock. Anyways, Ritter threw an interception. It's fine. I think the Falcons will be a little bit better this year. Oh geez. What do I want to do? What do I want to do here? Top of ADP are DeAndre Swift, Elijah Moore, Dalvin Cook, Cortland Sutton, Tua Tagovailoa, Treylon Burks. Oh, I'm gonna take Rashad Bateman. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good, people. I know there's a lot of Rashad Bateman fans out there, good profile, all that, but he's hurt again, and I don't know. I took him because of the Lamar stack, really. I just want if Lamar and that offense with Todd Monken, they do take the step forward. They do run 3 wide out there. They're not so heavy with the running game and the 2 tight end sets, 3 tight end sets, whatever it is they were doing with Greg Roman. I hope that Rashad Bateman at least can get some of those weeks out there because Lamar did call him his wide receiver 1. So last time I checked, that's pretty good. And if I'm betting on Lamar Jackson to be the MVP, I think Rashad Bateman will be a big part of that reason why when he is healthy. So as my 4th wide receiver, that's okay in the season-long format. And, none of my wide receivers have the same bye, which I do like when I'm trying to look at this season-long, the entire 17 weeks versus the tournament format. I do like to have a little bit of a varying bye. I'm not totally concerned with that. It's not at the front of my mind, but as I'm reviewing the team here, that is nice because I'm not as worried when I might use that as a tiebreaker coming up, but I'm not going to do that anymore because I've already got 4 good wide receivers who could all be the wide receiver 1 on their team. So bye weeks, not an issue. I am going to maybe push it though at running back with just Tony Pollard and Travis Etienne. I like those 2 guys. I think they call that a hero RB build. I'm really bad with these blueprint terms. But yeah, the 2 guys, I think that's hero. So gonna stick with that probably because this part of the draft, I mean, the RBs at the top of the board right now are Antonio Gibson, AJ Dillon, Zach Charbonnet, Brian Robinson, Rashad Penny, Devon Achane, Samaje Perine, Jamal Williams, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. A bunch of guys who could have some weeks, but I still think there's players at other positions who could really make a big impact on my team for most of the season if they are able to crack my lineup. So I'm looking at a guy like Anthony Richardson to really, really kind of corner that upside dual threat quarterback in this particular league against these 11 other players. I know if I'm looking at the board, let's see if anybody else has 2 quarterbacks yet. One team has no quarterbacks. The Josh Allen drafter. All right. So the Justin Fields drafter just took Tua. And another person's pushing it. So I could maybe, Tua has a lot of great upside as well. And I think Anthony Richardson's the last guy here who really could push for a top 5 quarterback finish. I do think he will finish as a top 10 in this format. So I think I'm going to do it because Antonio Gibson, I love Jameson Williams, but okay, he goes anyway. So I don't have to even talk about that and get sad. So yeah, because I'm pushing tight end for a while now. I love having Kyle Pitts. I don't have to take another tight end, I don't think, until the end of the draft. Maybe I'll take a couple, but I'm going to take A-Rich because that's fun. That's a lot of fun. And Shane Steichen, he named him the starter for week 1 this entire offseason after the draft. Since the draft, everything out of Colts camp has been about how they want to get their starter out there and playing. And I think he's going to be playing with Jonathan Taylor because Jonathan Taylor, he can hold out, but the way the collective bargaining agreement is sort of structured, he doesn't have a lot of actual leverage as far as what he can do other than not play. for the Colts because he was a high draft pick. He wasn't a first round draft pick, but he is in the last year of his current deal. But they could franchise tag him and not really let him walk, even if he sort of sat out the season. So we have seen other running backs do that before. Le'Veon Bell has been mentioned a lot. Jonathan Taylor has been a huge workhorse type of back his entire career, going back through Wisconsin and I believe in high school, where he's able to take 300 plus touches, and he's the type of running back who can really give you those explosive plays. So it would be a shame to see him sit out, but hopefully the Colts are able to work something out, give him some more incentives, give him a contract, and I think that would really help out Anthony Richardson sort of get his feet wet, get acclimated to the NFL game. But he's my QB2, so I don't have to worry about it that much in this league. All right, I'm probably done at quarterback. I'm gonna go big upside and just leave it with those two guys. I could take Odell here. I think I would rather take Odell in the tournament format, but since this is season long, I think I'm gonna move on, look for a different option. Do I want to take Juju? I'm not going to take Juju right now. I'm going to take Rashad Penny, though, because Rashad Penny, he's more of a tournament guy. What am I doing? Rashad Penny has so much trouble staying on the field, but when he does and when he plays and when he gets 10 plus carries, he's amazing. So I'm hoping he can be efficient with his touches, and I'm hoping the Eagles can keep him healthy and manage those touches where they're giving him 5, 6 touches, 7 touches a game, because with that offensive line, he's a lot like Jonathan Taylor. He can just break them. So he can just break the long ones, and that's going to be good enough to crack my lineup sometimes, whether that be in the flex or to replace Tony Pollard or Travis Etienne scoring. If they're on the bye, maybe I shouldn't be counting on that, given Penny's injury history, but you know what? First time doing the stream on the controls, doing the draft, doing the video, doing the podcast. It's a lot. I get it now. I get why these guys run down the clock, and you got to make your decision. There's a lot of moving parts here. You got to talk. I got to no dead air, no dead space. I'm trying to look at the camera sometimes and look at the screen. This is a lot. It's a lot, people. But I'm having fun. This is what I want to be doing. It's okay. I should not complain. Let me just see where we're at as far as how many picks to go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 picks until I am up again, and we're in the 11th round out of 18. Currently I have 2 quarterbacks, 3 running backs, 4 wide receivers, and Kyle Pitts. So I'm trying to think, because in the tournament format, I would like to get up to, at least 7 wide receivers, sometimes 9, 10. Usually just 2 quarterbacks and then 5 running backs, usually 4 if they're outstanding, but 5, you feel a little bit better with that. And then 2, 3 tight ends. You can go up to 4. I've gone up to 4. I don't know why I said you. You can do whatever you want. I'm looking at the board here, and this is kind of, I think, where the new dead zone might be at. Pick 128. So that's pretty good. It might be a lot earlier for some of the people in your home league when they're looking around here. I don't know if they're going to be up on Jalen Warren, but he's getting a lot of steam, as the Zoomers say, as the tweeters say, as the Xers say. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take, I think, I don't know if I really want to take late running back shots here in the season-long format. I want to take guys that I think will be around for the season. So I'm going to take Damian Harris of my Buffalo Bills, because I'm hoping that he can be an efficient on a touch on a game-by-game basis and sort of have the same sort of injury luck or health that Damian Harris had when he was playing with the Bills, because Damian Harris never missed a game. He was live all 17 weeks. That's what you want in these tournaments in best ball when you can't make any moves for your team. So James Cook, he's presumed to be the RB1. The Bills, again, they're my favorite team. I follow them insanely closely. So what I know about them is they are going to try to do there's 11 and a half personnel this year, which is 2 tight end sets, but they're calling it 11 and a half because they're going to use Dalton Kincaid, who can split out wide and be a slot receiver, essentially. So that's going to give them some unique looks, and that's going to allow them to mix in James Cook, because they want Josh Allen to run the ball a lot less this year, probably call less design runs, hopefully try to limit his scrambling and have him check down. Again, they were doing that last year a lot early on. They were trying to force the ball out quickly to the running backs, and then eventually it's kind of just like, all right, Josh, go do your thing. We need to win games. So I anticipate they'll do that again this year. And Damian Harris should be a big part of that down the stretch, as far as being healthy and hopefully on his limited touches making an impact. So this, I said, might be more like a home league, this 12-team draft. Jalen Warren is still on the board here, a couple picks after ADP. I've got to make a move. I'm going to take Tyler Algier. And then I think I might be done at running back. So my 5 running backs right now are Tony Pollard, Travis Etienne, Rashad Penny, Damian Harris, and Tyler Algier. I think all of those guys can be RB1s. I think Rashad Penny has the most upside. Tony Pollard, Travis Etienne could both be top 5 running backs, as they are extremely efficient rushers with their touches, and they should get a couple catches a game, hopefully. And then Damian Harris and Tyler Algier, I think they are, in Algier's case, a pretty good contingent play as a rusher who got 1,000 yards last year, and now Bijan Robinson steps in. I think both of those guys are going to be on offenses that put up a lot of points. In the Bills with Damian Harris, and then with Tyler Algier, they have maybe the best rushing play caller in Arthur Smith. So I like this running back room a lot. I like my quarterbacks a lot. The dual threats, Lamar Jackson, Anthony Richardson. And so now I think it's time to just hammer wide receiver and tight end for the remaining 5-6 picks. What do I got going into round 13? So yeah, I looking like I'll probably end up with 8 wide receivers, maybe 3 tight ends. I think that would be pretty good because, Kyle Pitts, I don't want to go too crazy with the belief in the Atlanta Falcons, but I think Tyler Algier and Kyle Pitts, that's fine. It kind of a hedge against the upside there. Algier is kind of okay, they're going to be running the ball a lot. And then Kyle Pitts is like, okay, he's the guy we thought he was. He's the generational breakout tight end. He's going for 1,500 yards. He's blowing Kelsey out of the water. He's the best player in the world. Offensive player of the year. We can dream, Arthur. We can dream. All right. I really wish I had more to drink here. More coffee, more water. But this is what we're doing. I'm locked in. I can't move. I'm on the camera. I'm on the controls. I'm talking. So I'm gonna go ahead and for the watcher here, the viewer, I'm gonna click off running back and tight end and just look at running back and quarterback and just look at wide receiver and tight end. So at the top of the queue there, at the top of the ADP, currently the top guy is Cole Kmet, who no thank you. Chig Okonkwo is next, who's another kind of upside guy. So I think I'm going to pass on that. All right, here we go. Here's a guy I was talking with the Bandit Bros earlier today. Adam Thielen, welcome to the squad, buddy. And another new bye week, a week 7 bye. Don't have any of those wide receivers yet, but my buddy Mr. Wick, Mr. Brain himself, J.C. Wicklund, the behavior man, he was talking about, he goes, guys, Adam Thielen, he's probably going to have like 8 touchdowns or 10 touchdowns by week 8. We're going to be like, what the hell were we doing? And yeah, he probably is. But he's boring and old and dusty. And he wasn't very good last year because he was playing against the best wide receiver in the world. So now he's the wide receiver 1 who's going to probably be put in the slot more, a bigger slot. And when they made the move to get Adam Thielen, this new regime in Carolina, they knew they were going to take Bryce Young. So they went and got and signed Adam Thielen, knowing they were going to trade up in the draft and draft Bryce Young. So they believe that he is the type of player that will be very, very helpful to developing young running back who, if you watched Hard Knocks this past week, they got absolutely eaten alive, that offensive line, by the Jets and Quinnen Williams, which, to be fair, the Jets have the best D-line in the league, probably, or one of the best. And Quinnen Williams is maybe the best D-tackle, or one of the best. Sorry, Aaron Donald. But yeah, I mean, anybody who can kind of get open and has sure hands as a slot guy, pretty close to the line of scrimmage there for Bryce Young, he's going to be valuable. And Bryce Young, smaller, but no problem throwing over the middle. And he will look for Adam Thielen in the red zone, as every quarterback has done. And yeah, could lead to a pretty nice season for Thielen. Back on the clock. And I keep talking. All right. Top of the queue. Top of the Chig. Do I go Chig? I'm not going to go Chig. I'm going to go Jakey Fergs, ASAP Ferguson. Let's get him on the team. All right. I think this might be hearsay, but I thought I heard that one George Kittle said that Jake Ferguson was going to be the next breakout tight end. I was trying to find this before I hopped on here. I was trying to find the quote. I forget who I heard that from. I did not hear George Kittle say it on a video or something. I heard somebody say that George Kittle said it. So take that with a huge mound of salt. But Jake Ferguson, this is kind of a bet on Dak Prescott looking and favoring the tight end. That being a feature of Dak Prescott's game rather than being a feature of the Cowboys offense with Kellen Moore. I may also take Gerald Everett here just in case that's a feature of Kellen Moore's offense, and then he could be a really big part of the Justin Herbert Chargers high-powered attack. So I've thought a lot about that the past couple of days, about maybe in these best ball drafts taking Dalton Schultz, Jake Ferguson, and Gerald Everett. Just one of those guys. Come on. One might be a top 5 tight end this year. One might be a top 8 tight end. Maybe not top 5. And the others not so much, but they could have their weeks. So I am a little bit worried about Dalton Schultz. I do think he was kind of a feature of that offense, and now he's with the Houston Texans and the new regime there, who comes from the Kyle Shanahan tree and Bobby Slowick calling the plays. I do think that type of offense, they favor a tight end who can block. And I don't think Dalton Schultz is really known for his blocking. I mean, yes, you could say, hey, Bobby Slowick's gonna come in there and he's gonna put his own spin on the Shanahan system. True, he will, like Mike McDaniel did in Miami, and it turned it into like the greatest passing offense we've seen, is from like a yards per route run rate with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle just annihilating teams. But Mike Gesicki got lost in that, and he didn't play at all because he can't block for shit. So I'm a little worried about Dalton there. I think more people should be a little worried about him and thinking more about Jakey Fergs, ASAP Ferguson down there in Dallas. But about to be on the clock again. Just a couple more picks. About to make our 15th pick. My 15th pick. Then I got 16, 17, 18. So 2 tight ends. 5 wide receivers. So 4 more picks. I think I'm going to go with at least 2 more wide receivers. Then we'll see about the tight ends. At the top of the list here are Isaiah Hodgins and Jalen Hyatt. There's all these Giants wide receivers at the end of the draft. So it's kind of a choose your own adventure. Who do you believe in? Jalen Hyatt, best ball tournament, great. Not so much for this season-long noise, I don't think. Not for me. I look at what the Giants have been doing and Brian Daboll, and I just think that he is signing every slot receiver under the sun because that's how you beat these modern defenses, and that's what he's going to do. He's going to make sure he's got all of them because that's who's going to win, and maybe they can all do something a little bit different. That's why he's got Cole Beasley there, who he had in Buffalo. So Isaiah Hodgins, Jalen Hyatt, Tank Dell, Dawson Knox, my guy Dawson Knox. I'm going to go with Tank Dell, who has been having a pretty awesome camp preseason, was basically taken by the Texans, I think, because CJ Stroud was like, hey, I like how you run routes, man. And then the Texans were like, great, we're going to draft him for you. But I think he had 8 targets the other day. He looked like unguardable in preseason action, which, again, mound of salt. Throwing in the salt, all the salt. Take it, all the grains. But Tank Dell, that's definitely more of a tournament play, but I'm hoping he can kind of come on late and, have a pretty solid stretch there, sort of October, November, December, that sort of window. If he's cooking by the time Halloween comes around into the Thanksgiving area, I think he could end up cracking the lineup a little bit. And in the 15th round, that's all I'm really looking for from my 6th wide receiver here. So that's pretty good. I do want to take one of these Giants guys, though. I do. I think it might be Darius Slayton, who he's one of those guys who I vowed to never take, but he's probably the most consistent, and he's the deeper threat that they will sometimes use. But I just talked about the slot receivers there, and I like Wandale. I don't know. Isaiah Hodgins won, so I don't have to worry about him. You know what? This is tough. About to be on the clock again. I'm gonna punt it for another round and take Michael Wilson, Arizona, 3rd round draft pick, who the big thing I took away from this new Arizona regime was they went and they got the GM first. And I believe his name is Monty Osenfort. Basically, he came in as a hard ass, and he's like, we're going to set the culture. We're going to have guys who are not about the ego, not about themselves, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So he cleaned up some house. But that doesn't sound very good for Kyler Murray, to be honest, who has a lot of, his contract and his gaming and all that stuff. And he kind of looks like he's maybe about himself a little bit. But hopefully he can get things worked out. And I do think Kyler will play this year. But Michael Wilson was their draft pick. That wide receiver room is pretty open. This GM did not trade for Marquise Brown. So I think Michael Wilson will be heavily featured in this offense all year. And it was either him or Trey McBride that I wanted to sprinkle into the team here at the end, because I think those two guys will feature pretty heavily. And I hope that by the end of the season, again, they have a chance to crack the lineup. When maybe, AJ Brown misses some time because he's a little banged up. He kind of misses some time. Or maybe Christian Kirk, it's not his week. It's not Travis Etienne's week. It's actually a Calvin Ridley blow-up week. Or Evan Ingram, who just came on late last year. Or Zay Jones, who I think was top 5 in end zone targets. So, these top receivers, I love them. I love the picks, but they're not always going to hit. And, people might get injured. And I like taking the younger guys late, even in this season-long format, not even the tournament format, because I think those guys, they will have their snap shares limited early on, less of a chance to get hurt. They'll ramp up in practice. They'll learn the system. They'll learn the playbook. They'll gain the confidence. And then as some of the other teams who have been or other players who have been relied on all year, maybe something goes wrong. They miss some time. Maybe the Eagles are amazing again and they're resting AJ Brown, and that could be a problem. So that's the reasoning there. As I am dying for a drink of coffee or water. Probably shouldn't have coffee at 11:21 on a Friday night, but I don't know. I'm the Bandit. So I can do what I want. All right. Here we go. About to be on the clock again. I think, again, I'm going to take maybe one more wide receiver and a tight end. Maybe I'll take two more wide receivers because I just saw another guy that I do want to take, a wide receiver. And then, yes, Michael Mayer is really tempting as a rookie who could feature really heavily late out there for a possibly horrible Raiders team. Um, but Isaiah Likely might be the guy I want to tag on really late to stack with Lamar. But to stack with Anthony Richardson, I'm going to take Josh Downs because Josh Downs, there was a little sort of blurb in Dane Brugler's The Beast scouting guide over at the Athletic. And basically what it said was Josh Downs is very good at getting open when sort of scramble drill happens. So to me, that sounds like a perfect marriage with Anthony Richardson's skill set. So if Anthony Richardson, I'm guessing there's going to be a lot of design run calls. They're going to take advantage of his dual threat ability. And maybe they're going to have some simple 1-2, if it's not there, go type of offense in place as he's, learning how to throw guys open, when guys are open, when to take those shots in the NFL game at the NFL speed. I think that Josh Downs is going to be that guy that he looks for who's going to get open and find ways to get open for his quarterback. So he's another one of these late plays that I think could really crack my lineup. And hopefully, one of these three guys that I've taken in the last couple of rounds, Tank Dell, Mike Wilson, Josh Downs, one of them, is a hit and cracks my lineup and really makes the difference between me, finishing third, fourth in this league and getting up to second or first because I'm trying to get first, of course. I just want to beat these other 11 teams. So I think I've got a pretty good balanced opportunity to do so. I think maybe taking another veteran would be a good idea now, though, just because I've taken a lot of youth here to try to balance, try to get things going in the end of the season. The top of the ADP for my last pick are Hunter Renfrow, Khalil Shakir, Mecole Hardman, Chase Claypool, Zach Ertz, Robert Woods, Puka Nacua, Josh Palmer. Ooh, Joshy P. I'm going to take Joshy P. All right. So I get a piece of the Chargers offense a little later than usual, but the one thing with Josh Palmer that is stuck in the back of my mind is he was grinding after practice with Justin Herbert. He's a guy who really wants to be out there. Maybe he's not the most talented player on the team. Maybe he's not the most athletic player on the team, but he's going to work his ass off. And Keenan Allen's getting up there. Mike Williams is getting up there. Even if they have a great year, I do think Josh Palmer showed enough last year to earn a bunch of snaps, get a bunch of routes. And I think he will get routes in every game. I think he'll get snaps in every game. It might not be crazy, but I think they will mix him in to the game plan often. And definitely while Quentin Johnston is getting worked up to speed. So I do think Palmer is sort of a contingent play based on Keenan Allen's hamstrings. And also just that offense, hopefully taking a huge monumental step up when they were already like the pass heaviest team last year, but hopefully they're making bigger gains downfield versus dicking and dumping the way they were trying to run the offense like they did with Drew Brees, who was the Saints play caller, who had Drew Brees, but he had Justin Herbert, who has a cannon for an arm. So I'm hopeful that Josh Palmer, he's going to stick around as these aging veteran wide receivers kind of move on from the Chargers, and they sort of have to work around the edges with the salary cap to kind of fit in around Justin Herbert's mega deal when that kicks in. So I do think Josh Palmer is the type of guy who, if he's got a good relationship with Herbert, and a good relationship with Herbert means working after practice. I mean, there was a clip I saw with Herbert where I think it was kind of like the old, we'll see on Wednesday type of clip where after a big win, the coach, maybe he gets in the locker room afterwards and to hype his guys up instead of coming in on Tuesday. They get Mondays off after the game. Instead of coming on Tuesday, we'll see you on Wednesday. And I think Brandon Staley was going to do that. And maybe he said it or somebody else said it. And then Justin Herbert was like, we shouldn't be cheering. We shouldn't be cheering this. You should want to work. So I think a worker like Josh Palmer, will easily endear himself, or he has already endeared himself to the maniacal worker that Justin Herbert seems to be. Now, I've been talking for 50 minutes straight, which is wild. Live on the YouTube screen here, it is at double zeros. And for whatever reason, Abdullah567 is double zeros. And it's not ending the draft, which is a bit of a bummer. I mean, I usually do this on my phone, so maybe this is kind of how it goes. But yeah, I was hoping they would show the projections as far as all the teams, see where we're at, see how people graded. Maybe there's a way to see that if I go to results here. Drafts completed. You can see all the crazy amounts of drafts that I've done. That was apparently my 128th finished NFL 2023 season draft. Oh boy. And I'll scroll down here. I didn't get to name that draft. 12-person draft. Here we go. View full draft. No, it's not showing it. That's weird. Maybe. I don't know how to see it, but the projections are a little wonky anyways as far as the full season projections. I'm not really sure how they do it. Maybe I should tweet at Hayden Winks or something, or X at Hayden Winks, post at him, be like, hey man, why does it say I'm only projected to get 2,500 points? My team is sick. But anyways, that was the first live Bandit mode draft on Underdog, the first YouTube action. This will be a podcast too. Obviously, you know that if you're listening to it. But yeah, I'm going to do a puppy 2. That's actually the puppy 3, but that's the $5 tournament format. So that'll be a little bit different. A little bit different thinking, a little bit different strategy. But I'm not doing that right now because I need to drink some water. So yeah, I will talk to you guys later. Thanks for hanging out. How do I end this thing?